So let's just do $3 million. And let's just say on this example here, right? If you're going to get a loan for at 6.5%, I just want to show you guys as an example when you're doing back of the napkin math. Okay. Like again, this is a random deal. Ignore everything else on this sheet. All I'm trying to show you right now is this box. Okay. So if you see here 975, let's try to do 60, what is it, 66.67? That's $1 million. Okay. So $1 million loan, right? If you want to get a debt coverage ratio that is healthy here, like for any type of property, this number needs to be roughly 1.3, 135, like somewhere in that range to have a very healthy debt coverage ratio, right? So that means at $1 million, let's just add some extra income here. I'm just adding some extra income so we can understand where we're at. Okay. 1492. So I'm trying to figure out exactly where this needs to be. Give me 1 second. The point here is that like if you're looking at a deal, every $1 million in a mortgage, you can basically take roughly $75,000 a year. That's what this is going to come to. 6.5% interest only over a 30-year mortgage term. Actually, it needs to be 25. Again, an amortizing loan. If you have a 25-year loan for $1 million, okay, 25-year amortization, for $1 million, it costs you $81,000 a year right now. Okay, at 6.5%. So if you take 81,000 times 1.25, sorry, 1.3 on a calculator, okay, which I'm gonna show up here really close. 81,000 times 1.3 in your calculator. That means you need to have a net operating income of $105,000, okay, 81 times 1.3, 105 NOI to comfortably get you a $1 million mortgage. So that means for every $105,000 right now in this type of environment, for every 105 grand that you have in NOI, you can get $1 million loan, which is crazy right now. Again, this is at 6.5% interest. So that means if you have a $400,000 NOI divided by $105,000, you can roughly get, it's going to say 3.8, 400,000 divided by 105 grand. You can roughly get a $3.8 million mortgage, right? Real quick back in the napkin math. So that means if you're dealing with any type of property, if you just take whatever the net operating income is of a property, so if we just are randomly doing a deal, right? So let's just say we're doing a deal. Let's just do example 1 here. Let's just say that you have a deal and it doesn't really, let's just say it's an industrial property. I'm going to give you an industrial building. I'm going to give you a multifamily and we're going to do a retail building. Okay. Right. So if you have an industrial property, 25K square feet and NOI is 300K, you have a multifamily building, you have a 30 units. Okay. 30 units. NOI is 350K. And then you have a retail building, which is 15K square feet, and NOI is 200K. So you have these 3 different examples, all right? This is you just prospecting. You have these different examples. How much of a mortgage can you actually get, right? Like quickly back of the napkin, we're like, okay, seller wants X. What we can actually get in a mortgage is going to be Y, right? So this is going to be seller price, and then we're going to say mortgage amount. So we're going to say what you can actually get in a mortgage. So who wants to give me the numbers here based on what we just talked about quickly, right? Like back of the napkin math, right? So like it's not going to be, it doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but we just talked about it. Remember, it's 105K in NOI, right? In your NOI per million. Okay. 105K NOI per $1 million in debt that you can get on a property. So if you have these different properties, right, you're prospecting, you randomly get into the industrial building. It's 25,000 feet. NOI is 300,000 a year. Seller wants, let's just say $6 million. Doesn't really matter what the seller wants, right? They want 6 million. Actually, let's say in this example, he wants 5 million. This seller wants 5 million. This seller here wants, they want 6 million. Okay. And then this retail building seller wants $3 million. How much of a mortgage roughly can you get?
Based on the math, it's going to be 525.
Okay, great. So how did you find that math?
You said every 105,000. Oh, whoa, way off. Never mind. No, it's going to be $2.5 million in debt.
Okay, so hold on. So let's do the quick math, right? So let's take 300,000 divide by 105 grand.
Yeah.
And you're going to get 2.85. So this means on this property, we could get from the bank $2.85 million in a mortgage amount based on the 105K. What about this next deal? We're going to go through, the next part here, which is like what actually we could pay here, because then we're going to have a starter offer. But all this is important, right? Because this allows us to better explain to a seller, like it obviously might be difficult to find somebody who wants to put down 42%, 43%. Okay, for this multifamily deal, how much mortgage amount? What's our mortgage amount? What could we get?
3.333333.
3.333 million. What can we get for this retail building? Remember, all Sagi did was he took 350,000 divided by 105 grand. Because this is what an investor's looking at, right? Like an investor's like, okay, well, what's my debt cost? My debt cost is going to be roughly 105 grand. My debt cost is going to be 80 grand. Basically, it's going to cost them 81,000. This is going to be the debt cost, okay? The debt cost is 81K per $1 million, right? So this is how much can a bank lend. So this number here is how much can a bank lend, and then this is the cost of mortgage. So it's like a bank will only give you, based on $105,000 in net operating income, $1 million in debt. Now, how much will the debt cost you? It'll cost you $81,000 per million. So underneath this, let's do some math, right? So it's going to cost you roughly, what's 2.85 million times 81, or 2.85 times 81 grand. How much is this mortgage going to cost you? For every $105,000 in net operating income, right? Whatever the NOI is divided by 105, that's how much mortgage it can get you per million. And then every $1 million worth of debt right now on a 25-year amortizing loan, I'm literally giving you the answer, is $81,000 per million, right? So if you have 2.85 million, how much is it going to cost you?
230.
Great. Answer is correct. 230,000. All you have to do is take 2.85 and multiply it by 81,000.
And that's 230 per year?
230 grand a year. Correct. Yep. For a 25-year amortizing loan. 25-year AM loan. At 6.5%, by the way. Now, how much is this next one going to cost? And then someone's going to give me the retail answer. I need the total mortgage amount and I need the amount of cost. We're just learning back of the napkin today. Mortgage amount is 3.33 million. How much is it going to cost?
270.
Great. 270 grand. You were correct. Awesome. What's this next answer? Now, all he did, by the way, is you take 3.33, right? The amount of millions, right? How many millions are in 3.33 million? 3.33. You take 3.33 multiplied by 81,000, you get 270 grand in cost. Great. This retail deal. This retail deal is $3 million, or the seller wants $3 million. It only brings in a net operating income. I meant to write NOI here. How much of a mortgage can we get on this property based on a 200 NOI?
1.9.
1.9. Great. And how did you get it?
200 divided by 105,000.
Perfect. I agree. 1.9 million. Great. How much is it going to cost you per year?
1.9 times 81.
Great. Which is what?
154,000.
Great. Exactly right. 154 grand. Now, what's really interesting, guys, like this puts everything in perspective. Where now, when you're talking to a seller and the seller says that they want these numbers, the seller says, hey, I want 5 million, I want 6 million, I want 3 million. Well, you can only get a $2.85 million mortgage, a $3.33 million mortgage, and a $1.9 million mortgage. It definitely can make it difficult to pay the price that they want. So when we're making our starter offers, right, it doesn't just mean that we have to make a 10 cap offer, right, 3 million, but obviously that would help. But let's talk about some seller financing offers that would make sense, right? So these are going to be seller financing only. Seller financing starter offers. Okay? Who wants to go first? Give me some starter offers. Based on what we know now. If we got a traditional mortgage, this is all the details you need to know. If we got a traditional mortgage, it would cost us 230, 270, 154.
You mean it's the cost in the debt?
The cost for the debt, correct.
Okay.
And by the way, we're just doing quick back of the napkin. Like, I want you guys to just start visualizing this next time you guys are speaking to sellers in your head. Like, okay, yeah, the NOI is 300. Okay, well, based on a 300,000 NOI, I can only get a $2.85 million mortgage, and it's going to cost me roughly at a 6.5% interest rate, 25-year AM, which is basically every type of mortgage right now. I'm not going to confuse you with saying, well, the multifamily property can probably get a 30-year amortization. It's really not that important. Right now, we're just dealing with 25-year AMs. I just want you to get an understanding of why some of your deals might not work right now, because the debt cost is not, it's not small, right? Like, and if I can only get this much in a mortgage based on what the seller wants, it can be difficult. But let's create some starter offers with seller financing that can make sense. Who wants to go first? Number one, we're just going to deal with let's do the industrial deal first.
4 million.
Okay, tell me some terms.
4 million, 30% down, 4% interest only, 10 years. Starter offer.
So you said $4 million, 30% down, 4% IO for 10 years. So let's break this down. Well, that means $1.2 million down. You also said 4% IO, right? So that means the seller is going to hold a mortgage of $2.8 million mortgage at 4% IO, okay? So that means that cost, okay, let's talk about the cost, right? That means you're going to be paying, right? We're going to do our back of the napkin math, which is 2.8 million times 4%, which is going to cost you 112 grand. Okay. 112,000 in annual debt payments. Now let's do some numbers, right? $4 million, 30% down. That's 112 down. Now, what's our cash flow? What's our cash flow here, Sagi? If we made this offer, what's my cash flow year one?
The cash flow year one would be.
You can just talk about what the math looks like. You don't have to give me an answer, but talk me through it.
Is it what the NOI minus the annual debt payments?
Correct. That's exactly right.
So
Right.
188, is that what it comes to?
Great. Yeah, 100%. So 188,000. All Sagi did was that he took my mortgage payment, right? Seller financing. And let's say a buyer's willing to pay an offer $4 million with 30% down. That's 1.2 million down. 4% interest only for 10 years. That means the seller's going to hold a mortgage for 2.8, which is 70% of 4 million. 4% interest only payments would be 112 grand in payments. And then you take the NOI of 300 minus my debt payments. I'm going to cash flow 188 grand a year with obviously hopefully some upside. And I only put down 1.2 million. That's a very strong, healthy cash on cash return. We like it, Sagi. I agree. I would make this offer too, right? Very strong numbers. Now, I probably would have started with 20% down, but 30 is fine. Doesn't really matter. I mean, regardless, you're getting a pretty good deal here. What makes this a good deal is what? What is really making this a strong deal more than anything?
Interest only?
Well, the 4% interest only. Yeah, 100%. Right? The keeping our debt payments so low is a very positive thing. Okay. I want you to understand something though. Keep in mind from the seller's perspective, what could be their counter response to you? Maybe the price is good, but what do you think they might say to you, Sagi?
That they want more money down?
Okay, they could say maybe more money down. What else could they say? I just want you to look at this number for a second. What do you think I'm going to say? 300K NOI. What does that mean?
And you're saying that they're okay with the 4 million number?
Maybe they're okay with your form here. I'm just also, by the way, I'm putting this link in the chat so everyone can follow me along in real time. But what do you think they're gonna like? What is something they could consider saying to you, considering the NOI for them is now 300,000?
They're making a third what they used to.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, so they're making 300,000 a year, and now you're saying, hey, would you take 112 grand a year? Keep this in mind that, like, yeah, 100%, Jake. Like that could definitely be something that they are thinking in their mind when we're making an offer. I agree with you. Like the 4% IO, like if they agree to this, this is a home run and a half, especially the 10 years piece. Like we're taking this deal. Very, very good. The one thing I want to stress though is the following. Important to pay attention to is when you're negotiating with sellers, like, okay, well, it's 300,000. Like, okay, well, how much money per month would you need in order to at least make sense of getting some money up front, right? Because I'm giving you $1.2 million down, right? So I'm giving you a lot of payment up front for taking over the building. Well, they might come back to you and say, okay, well, I won't do 4% IO. I need 7%. So let's do some more math. I want 7%. So 7% interest only, right? What's the math here? And maybe they want 40% down. Let's do the math now. They want 40% down, 7% interest only. 40% down is $1.6 million. Their mortgage amount is going to be now 2.4. And their annual debt payments, maybe what if they said to you, I need, ignore the 7%, by the way. Let's say they needed, instead of 7%, let's say they wanted at least 20 grand a month, 20K. That actually happened to me recently. 20K per month. Okay. Interest only payments. I want 20 grand a month in interest only payments. Okay. 240 grand a year, which by the way, and they want 40% down, which would be basically like 10% interest. And then now this would be 240 grand a year. Okay. In debt payments. And my cash flow would now be 60 grand. What do you think about this deal, Sagi?
I like it less than my starter offer.
What do you think? What my point is, like, let's just say, give it a scenario. Pretend I'm your buyer. I made you the offer of $4 million, 30%, 4% interest only. We came up with that together. You presented to the seller. The seller came back and said, listen, like, I like the price is okay, but I need, and I'm okay with seller financing, but I need 40% down because I have a mortgage of $1.2 million. Okay, and you want to get paid your commission, Sagi, of 6%, and I can't walk away with nothing. But I don't want to manage this property anymore. It's really freaking annoying. I'm willing to give you some seller financing on the remaining because I don't need my money. But I'm making 300 grand, or let's say I'm making roughly $20,000 a month right now, Sagi. So I want 20 grand a month, right? I'm making 20 grand a month right now. I don't want to make less than 20 grand a month in cash flow. Does that make sense? Right? So that's my counter as a seller for a second. Now we're talking about the deal. You and I is now your buyer. What are you thinking?
Would it make sense to keep it at 4% interest only for 5 years only? Would that double if he was getting 112,000 per year that we're paying to the seller for 10 years? If we make it only for 5 years, would it double the annual payments to the seller?
So say that again. Why would that double the annual payments if we're
he's holding paper instead of for 10 years, only for 5 years?
Agreed, but you only want to pay him 112 grand a year.
I mean, he countered with he wants 240 a year, right? So
yeah.
What position we'd be in?
So let's talk about it. So does anybody else want to chip in and say something? real quick?
Wouldn't traditional financing be a better deal than this then at this point?
Probably could be. Right.
Right.
I mean, think about it. Like, again, in this scenario, we just got him to agree to $4 million. You can get a mortgage for 2.85, and your 2.85 would only cost you 230 a year. And he wants 240 a year. So we obviously need to figure out a way to make it better than current circumstances, right? With traditional financing. What do you think we would counter? Let's just say that we're trying to get a deal done. We want to figure this out. What would be some things we would say to the seller? One is, Chelsea, I agree with you. You're more expensive than current debt costs, which doesn't make any sense. But what else could we say to him? Let's say we're trying to make a deal happen.
Less money down?
Okay, we can. Remember, here's the problem. In this scenario, let's just say, again, I'm giving you the scenario for a second. Seller has a $1.2 million mortgage. So remember, you also want to get paid 6% commission here.
I'd find out the rate that mortgage is at, see if we could wrap that. Well, I guess seller carry is like a wrap, right?
Say that one more time, Miss Seller carry.
Well, I was curious what the interest rate was on the seller's current mortgage.
Let's just say it's cheap. Let's say it's, I don't know, 2.2%.
Yeah, so I wouldn't want to knock it out. I'd want to wrap it. I'd want to keep it in place.
Well, let's just say it's not assumable. It's not assumable. You cannot assume their mortgage.
Can you just take it subject to then?
Okay, let's talk about a sub 2 deal. Here's the problem. If you take it sub 2, what you're suggesting is that let's say we offer $4 million subject to everything, which basically means he's going to keep his mortgage in place, but he wants 20 grand a month. I mean, essentially you could make $60,000, total. But the problem is that, like, again, he's still got his mortgage in place, which then you're also going to have to pay. So if he has a mortgage in place, Hans, let's just say that cost him it cost him 60 grand a year. I'm making this up. Let's say his debt cost or 60K, right? So I guess it's 5% interest only. I don't know. I'm making this up. But if it costs him 60 grand a year and he even at a subject to deal, you'd have to pay his debt cost plus your plus his $20,000 a month that he wants.
Why don't we amortize over 20 years? So instead of 20 grand a month, we'll do 10 grand a month. So it's the same amount over the 20 years.
Well, remember, I mean, then you'd have to do longer. You'd have to not do 20 years. You'd have to do 30 years.
Previously, you talked about doing a master lease. That's the way we could leave that seller.
Yeah, so this, again, we're talking creative finance, a bunch of creative financing terms now. So, like, what we're trying to do here is figure out, like, look, my first thing to do here is I might not go sub 2. I'm probably not going to go sub 2. I'm not going to go master lease. I'm going to say, listen, would you be totally opposed to the idea of doing $15,000 a month instead of $20,000 a month, right? We're paying you 1.2. We're clearing your current mortgage payment. You don't have to worry about, we're clearing your entire current mortgage. Would you be totally against the idea of 15 grand a month versus 20 grand a month, right? It would make our cash flow substantially better, right? Because if hypothetically now, instead of 240,000 in annual payments, it was only 180,000 in annual payments, okay? Our cash flow would go from 60 to 120. And we say to them, listen, the most amount of money down we would do is maybe 1.5. We do 1.5. This covers all the seller's costs, our commission at 6% on 4 million, 240 grand, the $1.2 million mortgage payoff, plus $60,000 for, whatever miscellaneous costs he's going to have as well. But now we're going to make 8% a year on our money with the ability to take this NOI hopefully to a higher place. Obviously, look, if a seller wants 20, you're stuck at, in this case, we were at like 10 grand a month. The seller wanted 20 a month. Ideally, I might even ask him to do, 12 grand a month first and then try to end at 15,000 a month. I'm probably not going to offer 15 a month to start. Maybe go back at 144 and say, hey, would you do 12 grand a month? I like sometimes, and guys, when I do my offers, sometimes what I'll do, instead of interest only payments, instead of like a percent. So instead of saying, hey, would you do 4 million down, 4% IO, let's say 20% down. Instead of offering something like this, what I'll do is I'll say, hey, would you be open to like 8 grand a month? I'll say a number, 10 grand a month, right? 10 grand a month interest only payment. So I'll say a number. Now, and in this instance, obviously 4% interest only is cheaper than 10 grand a month. But I'm saying, sometimes, obviously, I'll do the math first. I'm not going to just make offers, but I'll do the math first and see what I would prefer to offer. Most of the time, 4% isn't getting accepted right now. Typically, 5%, 5.5%, 6%, 6.5%. A lot of stuff between 5 and 7 is getting accepted for seller financing. A lot of the deals we're working on with seller financing are in that range. Instead of offering, let's say, 6% interest only, I like offering things like, would you take 10 grand a month, 12 grand a month interest only payments, right? Because it will be typically more cost effective to just offer them a flat number amount than an interest rate.
I see what you were saying now by offering 10,000 a month. If he's looking for 20, starting at 12, and then maybe bumping up the purchase price up to like 425, so 4.25, and say, hey, you're going to make more out of this in the back end, $250,000 more. I'm just going to give you less per month.
All right, tell
So
me what you mean. So instead of offering them more money down, I mean more money monthly, we say that at the end of whatever this term is, I know it says 10 years, but whatever, it's 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is, right? You're saying that you'll offer them more money at the end.
Correct. I'll give you another 250,000. That's the same spread over the 10 years if we went up to from 12 to 15. Just don't get it up front. So I can get some cash flow to, stabilize this problem.
Gotcha. Yeah, can definitely be beneficial. I would say that makes more sense when there's a lot of upside in the deal, right? So like if there's not a lot of upside in the deal, I would never tell you to pay more money. I would say to you that, like, again, if hypothetically we think that this building will be, let's say we can take our NOI from 300 to, 500, right? That type of situation makes a ton of sense, for sure. I agree with you 100% and be like, listen, what we're willing to do, we're willing to basically, why don't we increase the purchase price, give you an extra 250 grand or whatever it is at the tail end of the, whatever. That makes more sense to me, for sure. However, if hypothetically the NOI is going to go from 300 to, let's say there's not a lot of upside and you're only going to go to 350, you can't do that. There's not a lot of upside. You know what I mean? I would rather just say, hey, like, let's come to an annual payment, not 1,000. Let's, this is meant to say whatever, 10 grand. But my point is, let's come to an annual, an agreement on payments, and maybe we can grow over time. Let's start with 10,000 and next year we'll do 12. And then the following year we'll do 13 and then 15 and then whatever. I don't know. We'll go up by 5% a year in debt payments. I'd rather go up over time and save myself and build a way to make some cash flow up front, where by the end of year 5, if we can get to a 350 and again, let's just say it doesn't have a lot of upside, 350 NOI, we could hopefully refinance and, get a new loan, a new mortgage. 350 NOI, how much of a new mortgage can we get? Now that it's 350, what can we do? Because remember, guys, we talked about this before. 105 in NOI, 81,000. Remember? Now it's 350. How much of a mortgage can we get? Instead of 2.85, what can we get? 3.33. It's literally the same as this one right here. I agree. Right now. Right, it's going to cost us 270. So what's cool is that, again, in the future we can get a $3.33 million loan. With the seller, we only owe them, let's say 2.4, 2.5. We're going to get a good chunk of our initial down payment, plus we're going to be cash flowing the whole time at a good rate. So, and obviously we're going to be able to hopefully refinance, maybe obviously if debt gets cheaper, we're going to be able to do a little bit better. But for right now, we're going to be able to pull out 3.33. This allows us the understanding that, like, look, if we can get into this range over time, it can make sense for us to, cash flow at 8 to 12% a year and be okay. Now, obviously, if this can go to 400 or 500,000 a year, Gabe, like the NOI, instead of it only going to 350, if it goes to 400 or 500, we would be more willing to be agreeable on skewing the numbers, right?
Yeah, because I figured the biggest pushback is going to be the monthly payment. So let's say he's stuck on 20. How would you still craft the deal?
Yeah, so if he's stuck on 20, I would just say, like, listen, then like it would probably make more sense to just go traditional. Let's go back a little bit. $20,000 a month, we might as well go traditional financing. The only other option here is you say, listen, you could hypothetically say to them, would you be open to holding a second? I mean, like, not that this always works out perfectly, but would you be open to holding a second mortgage, which I will pay off in, let's say, 5 years and do very minimal payments? So what you could do is the following, right? So now this is the example of second position seller financing, right? Second position notes. So what we could offer now, okay, let's just say that I'm gonna go over here now. Let's get rid of this.
Do you get takers on that for the second, or they don't?
Sometimes. I mean, it depends, because like, look, what you're saying to somebody is saying, look, I'm gonna go get a mortgage. I'm gonna do a traditional sale. However, it's very difficult for me to make sense of this, and you're open to seller financing. Look, instead of holding 2.5 million, I'm going to get a normal mortgage, but I would like for you to hold, let's say, an additional, let's say 500 grand. He's going to hold an additional 500,000 or so. You can get your 2.85 plus the 500. So I'm going to write down 2.85 million. He has to come to the table. Let's say this is a $4 million mortgage, $4 million purchase. I'm going to put 500K, and this is going to be second position. Okay, I'm going to get this is going to be my mortgage amount, my first position. And then I'm going to come in with a down payment, which is, 2.85 plus 500 is 3.35. That's going to be 650K. So my down payment is going to be 650. This is my down payment. Okay, my closing cost is probably going to be an extra 100 grand. My closing costs, CC, my closing costs, right? So I'm total out of pocket $750,000, right?
So you're basically giving them what the property's worth today, and then you're going to share some of the future value with them when you pay them off.
Yeah, so I'm going to say like, well, I mean, look, this is sort of, but not really, because like technically what I'm saying to him is like, look, we could do one of two ways. Either you're open to taking less money up front in debt payments, or what I need you to do is be a little bit, willing to work with me and say, listen, how about I give you 2.85? I'm going to give you more than $2.85 million down. I'm going to give you I'm going to give you 650 plus my 2.85 million down for my mortgage. So at closing, the seller's going to walk away with 2.85 plus 650, 3.4, correct. Right? So $3.4 million. What happens now is the seller's going to walk away with $3.4 million day one, right? Or 3.5, right? This is the second position note, right? Yeah, 3.5 million. What happens is that the seller's going to walk away with $3.5 million day one. And I'm going to say, listen, I'm not going to make any payments on this 500 grand for 5 years, but I'm going to I owe you $500,000 and I'm going to pay you off at the end of 5 years. You know why I'm doing this, guys? Because what I'm hoping is like we just described here, in the future, in 5 years, I can increase the income to at least $350,000. I'm going to get a mortgage of 3.333. My debt was only 2.85 to start. I'm going to pay this down a little bit. I'm going to get cash-free money between the difference of my mortgage then or my mortgage when I do this refinance, which might be 2.8 million or something like that. Say I pay down 50 grand or 100 grand and 3.33. I'm going to be able to pay him off his 500 grand in the future. But my debt cost is only going to be, my debt cost day one is only going to cost me $230,000. I'm going to get rid of this word here. My cash flow, I'm going to move this over based off of this new deal. My cash flow is only going to be 70 grand because my cash flow is 70,000 because my NOI is 300 grand, right? My NOI is 300. My debt cost is $230,000. 300 minus 230 is $70,000. But here's the interesting thing, guys. How much money out of pocket am I, and what's my cash on cash return?
750 out of pocket.
750 out of pocket. We're cash flowing 70 grand a year. So what's my cash on cash return?
It's a little under 10%.
Little under 10%. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I can't do the math.
yeah, so it comes to 9.3 here. Where's the calculator, right? So it comes to, you just take $70,000 divided by 750 down payment, and you get 9.33. So all you're doing here is you're taking your your 70,000 in cash flow, divided into the amount of money out of pocket, and you get 9.33%, 9.333% cash on cash return, COC, which is a very strong cash on cash return. We're going to increase this over time. And eventually, let's just say it's a very strong, good tenants. This gives me, this is a much better situation, even with traditional financing, than it would have been the seller wanting $20,000 a month. We would still cash flow more, right? Our cash and cash return would be drastically higher because of the second position note. And by the way, the seller also does better, right? The seller's not going to walk away with no money. The seller's going to walk away with $2.85 million plus our 650, that's 3.5 minus his $1.2 million loan. This is the stuff I want you to be visualizing when you're talking to these sellers about how to be creative in your discussions with, when negotiating.